The mystery of Cain's wife, biblical insights and interpretations. The narrative of Cain and his wife is incredibly fascinating, especially for individuals who have seen in Genesis that the Cain dynasty is associated with. The account begs the question, how did Cain acquire his wife? And many are curious to find the answer, which requires us to search the Bible for clues. The following lines tell us that God expelled Cain after he killed his brother Abel. Cain then journeyed to the land of Nod, which was east of Eden. However, at this important moment the scripture states, Enoch was born to Cain's wife after she became pregnant from their sexual relations. Genesis 4:17. Since women were not mentioned before Eve, the mystery arises. How could Cain leave the heaven area and wander to find a wife to marry? This riddle presents two possible explanations for the origin of the woman whom Cain married. If the story interests you, then let's get started. As a result of his father's sin in heaven, the land was cursed. Now the Son himself is cursed through the land. This is how humanity's journey in the world began, by surrendering to passions and curses. This is the explanation for the toil and hardship of the human race outside of heaven. Now, to add to that, there is the punishment of wandering. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. Genesis 4 verse 12. In addition to being more terrible than Earth's curse, Cain's curse originated on this exact country, the area where he hid his transgression, and which will now administer his punishment, the withholding of his power from those who relied on him. Just as Cain's father was banished from heaven, so too is he from this point on, living in constant fear and without a permanent residence. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me, he says. Verse 14 of Genesis 4. Cain denies his accusations, but God spares him from harm by bestowing upon him special protection. The protection of Cain goes beyond the sign that sets him apart from the rest of the world. It also includes the promise to avenge his death in case the sign alone is not sufficient. After leaving the presence of God, he ironically settles in the land of Nod. There he experiences the joys and challenges of family life, continuing the chain of generations just like his father. Where did he find a woman in a world devoid of humans in the Bible? The question of who Cain married is not explicitly answered. However, it is believed that Cain married one of his sisters, or a close relative, as all the people on earth at that time were directly descended from Adam and Eve. Where then Cain find his wife? There are two options available for this. The first option suggests that God created additional groups of people and dispersed them across different parts of the world. This suggests that the woman Cain married could be a part of one of these distinct groups. However, upon examining the story of Genesis, this idea appears to be impossible. In Genesis chapter 3, Adam refers to his wife Eve and declares Adam named his wife Eve because she would become the mother of all the living. Genesis 3 verse 20. It is important to note that the phrase mother of all the living only applies to humans. This emphasizes that Adam and Eve were the original human couple from whom all subsequent humans descended. Therefore, it goes against Scripture to say that Cain encountered a separate group of people created by God. An alternative explanation could be that Cain married his sister, niece, or great-niece. It was one of Adam and Eve's daughters or granddaughters who married Cain after Cain was cursed and exiled. He journeyed to the land of Nod, where Enoch was born into the world because Cain had sexual relations with his wife, who became pregnant. Verse 17 of Genesis 4. Despite being cursed and marked to avoid harm, Cain found a woman who agreed to be his wife. She could have been one of his sisters, the daughter of Abel or Seth, his niece, or even a distant relative according to the book of Jubilees. The ambiguity of Genesis makes us wonder about Cain's relationship with his wife, but it's worth noting that Cain's wife was a descendant of Adam. The book of Jubilees, a Jewish commentary written between 135 and 105 BC, is not part of the Bible. According to it, in the third week of the Jubilee, on the fourth day, Eve gave birth to Abel. On the fifth day she gave birth to her daughter. Then Adam made love to his wife again, and she bore a son whom they named Seth. Adam said, God has given me another child in place of Abel since Cain killed him. Verses 25 of Genesis 4. Couple had a daughter named Azurah. Meanwhile, Cain's ambition led him to marry his sister, who produced him a son named Enoch. A city was named Enoch after Cain's son. Since Adam and Eve were the only humans on earth, their children had no choice but to marry. Ultimately, The mystery of how Cain came to possess his wife remains unsolved, even though God gave the Israelites instructions to multiply following the flood and later issued rules prohibiting incest or sexual intercourse between relatives. Looking closely at the Bible, it seems like Cain wed his sister, who was born to Adam and Eve when they went to the land of Nod. The lack of a ban on online discovery back then, along with the genetic conditions of that time, makes this explanation very credible. We hope you discovered something new today. If you enjoyed this video and shared it, consider sharing it with your friends too. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. And if you'd like to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.